So this is a P42, Pioneer 42. The 42 is for 42 horsepower. I believe it's around a 65 cc saw. The specs say it's about 20 pounds. Got this at a yard sale for $2. Didn't even haggle them. We just took the full price there, bud. There's a lot of life left on that chain, which makes me wonder how much the fellow that had this actually used it. Honestly, I don't know if there's anything wrong with it. And I honestly don't know a whole lot about this saw. I mean, for $2, a fella's got to get it. On-off switch, choke, throttle lock. And it feels okay there. What I want to do is just kind of take it apart, clean it up, get a little bit familiar with it, put her all back together, put some fresh gas in it, and just see what she's got. I was a little concerned the fuel line would be all cracked up, dry rotted and stuff, but it looks okay. Am I too optimistic to think that if we just dump this old gas out and put some new gas in, that she might have a little life in her? I think we ought to try. There we go. She's pretty dirty. Top of the cylinder's pretty crudded up. Looks a lot like the spark plug does. But I'm not so sure that's going to stop us from seeing if this thing runs. So I looked it up online, and that's what it said, RCJ7Y. In a historic moment of optimism. Oh, no kidding. 9/16 fits on there. It would appear we are missing the chain brake here, aren't we? Those are the oiler holes right there, depending on which way you have the bar flipped. And clean those oiler holes, clean the inside of that out. And we'll clean this up just a little bit too. She's not museum quality, but she's Kleeman quality. That'd be all right. Better than what it was. Looks pretty good. So when we did the barn organization video, a lot of people said we need power at the barn. We do plan on getting it here one day, but it's about $5,000 to run electricity over here, so you can understand why it's not at the very tip-top our priority list, but what we do have, this little inverter, runs off these little 40-volt Ryobi batteries. And I'm hoping it's enough to run the little electric sharpener. How handy. Little Chicago electric sharpener, it's nothing fancy. We're just gonna kind of go through and get the general shape, and then we'll touch it up with the file. By the way, at any point you think that I know what I'm doing, I do not. This is your disclaimer. I just kind of make things up as I go. You want like a professional that knows how to do this really well? Go watch Buck and Billy Ray or something like that. That little rig worked pretty good. Turn it back off. Pretty slick little unit. Not bad at all. Now I don't have a benchtop vise for this setup either. Remember, we just made this chainsaw workbench like 2 weeks ago. So I'm still kind of shopping for used stuff. Remember, bar stool, small vise, something like that. But to get us by, I think just leaving it in here will probably work just fine. I don't know that I'm going to be able to show you this real well because GoPros don't like to focus up close. But here it is for the file. And then this is kind of mid-file. Can you see that darker spot right there? So that's old metal where the file hasn't touched yet. So that's what we're trying to take out. The Chicago Electric got us the shape and the top side really nicely, but then we're using the file to get that bottom edge. So you can call these 27 different things. Some guys call them sweeps, some guys call them rakers, some guys call them depth gauges. That's probably because they do all of those things. That rides in the cut and kind of determines how much of a chip, what size chip you're going to be able to take. You shave it a little bit off, you get a little bit thicker chip out of it. They also kind of grab some of the debris and pull some of the debris out as well. Using the fancy Poulon Pro professional grade bar and chain oil. A good finish for the tabletop. Yeah, perhaps the pants were a little optimistic at this point. So this is that classic case of false optimism where I think, well, just a little bit of the bare minimum, we'll get her up and going. No problem whatsoever, bud. And then, you know, I waste a whole bunch of time. Pretty mad at myself right now. We're gonna take it all the way back apart and take the carburetor apart the way we should have, take everything out, get it cleaned up, and then we're gonna try again. I should know better. I should know better by now. So sure enough, you can still see there's some varnished fuel residue down in the carburetor. We've got the needle out. We took, where'd they go? Took both the jets out low and high. I counted half turns, but I already forgot what they were, so we'll have to figure that out in a second. Isn't that funny? Anyway, so now I've got all these ports open. We can clean them out really well and put everything back together. Got all our holes cleaned out. High side needle, we're gonna put that back in first. We're gonna go 18 turns, 18 half turns, I should say. So basically once it locks in like that, then we're gonna start. 1, 2. And I've got the tachometer out. We'll tune this up once we get it all put back together. Clean the low side needle off here real quick. There's a little bitty spring there. Rides right there. Then we've got this little, that clips into the needle. Or that one clips into the needle. And that rides through there. There we go. And there's a little screw that goes right there, holds all that in. Get that screwed on. Just like that. I don't know how well it shows up, but there's a little notch, and that notch has to slide in to that little spot right there. There's no way that's showing up great on a GoPro, but we're trying our best here. Okay, so that's hooked in now. Get a few little tests there, but real gentle with that. We don't want to tear any of that. And then this goes back on top of it like that. Lines up. And this is two pieces. There's a little diaphragm piece and there's a gasket. Diaphragm goes down. We're going to have to, oh, help if you put it on the right side, or the correct side. So we gotta kind of get everything lined up. Circle goes over the hole. That would make sense, right? Like this. Ah, there we go. Now we're all lined up, right? And then that cover goes over top of it. It can only go one way, so as long as you're kind of gentle, it's not going to hurt you to fumble around a little bit, finding the correct orientation. Just super gentle. Those little diaphragms are fragile, and it's kind of hard to find parts for these older Walbros like this. I had a hard time trying to tracking down on Amazon. In fact, I couldn't. So that's why I was a little nervous to take this all the way apart. But so this is, I guess this is the main jet. I'm not 100% sure. Glued on, had all kinds of fuel varnished on it though whenever I pulled it out. There's a big old chunk of varnished fuel that came out of right there. So I'm wondering if that might not be the issue overall, but there is a small little copper crush ring way down in there. Fella's not going to want to lose that. Slap on the old false optimism here. Little choke. Now we get nothing. So it's a couple days later, just got off shift, got back to the homestead. It's kind of a nasty rainy day, but that's okay. Got a feller to come to pick that up next week, I believe, by the way, so that is sold. As long as he shows up. Anyway, we've got the shop cleaned out and a workbench now. And I had an awesome subscriber send in this little rechargeable light. It's magnetic. Let's see what kind of difference it makes for us in the shop today. Look at that. That's the lowest setting. That's nice. So I've got a running theory of what I think's going on with this rig. And I've got a few things if my theory is correct, to try and do something about it. So we know the air filter is good. We've got the boot all cleaned up and it's sitting in there fine, which doesn't really necessarily affect how it runs, but if the boot has any tears, there's always a chance that debris could get in around there. We've got the carburetor all cleaned up, and I don't think we have any issues as far as that goes. All the diaphragms looked good, all the gaskets looked good. There were no noticeable rips or tears in anything, and I think we got all the old varnished fuel cleaned out of all the jets and the ports. You start it, you choke it, it wants to go, and then it dies instantly, as if it's not getting fuel. So we checked the fuel filter. Fuel filter looks good. Fuel lines look clean. I did not do it on camera, but I did pull the fuel lines off, blow through them. Everything looks good. I don't think there's any issues there. In my very limited understanding on how these work, I think we've got an air leak somewhere, and for lack of a better way to say this, I think it's losing prime somewhere. And I'm wondering if that is our problem right there. Do you see those two little brass inserts? Those are the two screws that hold the carburetor on. Those two inserts do. And if you look at both of those inserts, there's a crack through and through on both of those. And I'm wondering if that is enough of a crack to let air into what's supposed to be a sealed off cylinder to cause it to lose prime. You can see quite a bit better crack I'm talking about there. We're fighting that glare from that light just a little bit, but you can see it. Goes from the inside all the way to the outside there. Oh, you can see it really well right there. That crack right there. I'm wondering if that's not the problem. So what we're going to do, in a really crazy way to test this, I've got some electrical tape. We're going to do our best to seal that up with tape. Try to fire it up, see if it runs any better. If it does, that's our sign that that is the issue. If that's the issue, we'll take it off, and in a very redneck, budget-friendly way, we're going to throw some of that on there. I'm not saying it's perfect, but we've got some tape down and in there to cover up that crack on the outside. You can't actually see the indentation of the crack on that gasket there. So there's still probably going to be a little airflow, but hopefully it slows it down enough we can actually tell if there's a difference or not. So I think we might have solved the mystery. So I took the fuel line off this backside here, and I just ran some gas in it and kind of held it up here, and it wanted to start. So the carburetor's good, the spark plug's good, it's doing everything it should on this end, but there's clearly a problem on this end, and why I didn't check this sooner. Oh dear, I dropped. But if you look right in here, and I know you're not going to be able to see it, but where the fuel line comes in, where the fuel filter goes down, there's a little nipple right there, and right where that nipple goes in, there's a huge tear. So it's not able to pull fuel out of the tank. Let's fix that. That's gotta be something. That right there. See that? I wonder if you take that nut out, if you pull it out from this side. I bet you do. There, oh, there you go. That's what we had on the inside. Can you believe it? The whole time we were fighting an air issue. Well, fuel issue too. I guess a little bit of both. I'll be dipped. Well, we're just gonna clip it as high as we can. See that tear there? Slide the clamp on the hose. Slide the hose on the fitting. Slide her back in. Use a scrunch, slide it right on there. Pretty neat. The only tool you need, huh? All right, then this one didn't have a clamp, so we'll just slide it back on. And put that on, just give it a little pull, it'll line up. Click. And click. That's what we call satisfaction, fellas. Let's go cut something. Just want to know how you guys like the progression. You know, like we started with chaps every time in the beginning. And then towards the end, you're just like, can we get this thing figured out? And you're just down to earplugs and safety glasses. We'll be all right here. I want to see this thing cut. Let's do the top end with the tachometer. $2 at a yard sale. Probably $5 in carburetor cleaner. A little bit of time. Let's call it 10 bucks total investment. Not a bad deal. Like I said, it's a P42. The 42 is for 42 horsepower. I think it's a mid 60 cc saw. And I bought it to fix it and sell it. But I don't know that I'm going to sell it. I think I might keep the daggone thing. It's just kind of cool. Fella doesn't get these saws too often. I mean, they're out there, but you don't see them sitting at yard sales for 2 bucks very often. And this is your reminder, I didn't know how to tune a saw, and I still don't. I mean, I'm over here using a tachometer, and guys that run saws all day can just take a little screwdriver out and do it by ear. I have to use the tachometer still, but I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to take apart a carburetor. I didn't know how any of this worked probably less than a year ago. We're just kind of making this up as we go. So there's your reminder. If you ever see something like this cheap at a yard sale, buy it, tinker with it. What's the worst you got, right? You're out 2 bucks, you're out a little bit of time, but you gain a little bit of knowledge and skills, and that's kind of a cool thing. I like it. I like it a lot. You guys tell me in the comments, should I keep it? Should I sell it? I'm spending the rest of the day with the 372 and this $80 yard sale find of a wood chipper. I'm working on a project out by the garden. We're gonna cut a tree down that's kind of dead and just in a bad spot, try to make a bench out of it and see if we can get that wood chipper running well enough to chip all the little branches off the top of it. It's gonna be a pretty good video. So that's what's coming up after this. Keep or sell, I need to know. And if you like what you watched today, remember, we've got over 400 videos of all kinds of stuff like this. Just working around the homestead, working for Dirt Perfect, all kinds of stuff. We're not a channel that makes content for the sake of making content. We're a channel that makes content on what we're working on at the time in our lives. So if you enjoy it, then make sure you subscribe and check out all our other videos. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next one.